create the ultimate mental shortcut. A really quick, insightful tour from, our earliest beginnings right up to today.
And it's crucial we go beyond just dates and names. The sources really emphasize this link, don't they? Between history, the recording of stuff, and civilization, which is, well, progress, culture, society, tech.
It's like a feedback loop, you're saying.
Exactly. Recording allows complexity. Complexity drives more recording. And doing this rapid journey, it shows you not just the big achievements, but also the struggles, the sheer resilience of people. It's our shared story condensed.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this huge timeline, starting right at the beginning, the foundation.
Yeah.
That shift from prehistoric to, well, pre-civilized.
The very earliest period, the Paleolithic, the Old Stone Age.
Right, that's defined by movement, isn't it? People are nomadic, hunters and gatherers, basic stone tools, simple shelters, always following the food. And that lasted for an incredibly long time, hundreds of thousands of years. But then the sources all point to this huge turning point, the Neolithic Revolution, around 10,000 BCE.
This is when we stopped chasing food and started making it. Farming. That discovery was the original, killer app. Everything changes.
I get the practical bit. You can stay put, grow extra food, but how does that specifically lead towards civilization? What's the immediate next step after just, having a fixed address?
Well, it forces complexity. Suddenly you have a surplus. Not everyone needs to farm.
Right.
So someone can get really good at making tools, someone else at building, maybe defending the place. This specialization, that's the root of a complex society. Division of labor, social structures, and critically needing to track the surplus.
Okay. Who owns what? How much grain is stored?
Exactly. That's the immediate need for record keeping, for early history. It's driven by the practical problems of settled life.
That makes sense. The complexity demands the recording. Okay, so foundation laid. Then things speed up. By around 3000 BCE, we're into the great river valley civilizations, the first big blueprints for societies.
Indeed. And those four main centers your sources highlight, Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and China, each brought something really unique and groundbreaking to the table. Things that shaped progress for thousands of years.
Let's start with Mesopotamia, Tigris and Euphrates. They get credit for the first complex writing, cuneiform, and early formal law codes. Why are those two things, writing and law, so linked and so important? They're basically two sides of the same coin. Order. Writing wasn't dreamed up for poetry initially, it was for ledgers. All right, practical stuff.
Managing irrigation, tracking property, taxes. When you've got thousands of people living together, you need rules that are clear, written down, applied to everyone, not just word of mouth. So Mesopotamia, with cuneiform and laws like Hammurabi's Code, they essentially invented state bureaucracy, codified justice. That structure let them manage things on a huge scale.
Okay, contrast that with Egypt, along the Nile. Their legacy feels more visible, outward. Pyramids, massive monuments, masters of building, yes, but the sources also mention astronomy, medicine.
Yeah, and the sheer centralized power needed to build those Egyptian monuments is staggering, which is a really interesting contrast with the Indus Valley civilization over in South Asia happening around the same time.
How so?
Well, if Egypt focused on monuments to rulers or gods, the Indus Valley seemed to prioritize infrastructure for the people. Amazing urban planning, really sophisticated drainage, public sanitation. Their cities look designed for, practical living.
That's a fascinating difference. Why drains over pyramids? Any idea?
The sources suggest maybe a different approach to governance, perhaps more focus on collective well-being, trade stability, rather than just glorifying a single pharaoh. Their practical skills definitely helped build extensive trade networks, linking them all the way to Mesopotamia. Shows that progress isn't always about heights. Sometimes it's about efficient plumbing.
Fair enough. And rounding out this early group, over in the Yellow River Valley, China, early dynasties there giving us silk, paper, but also laying down philosophical roots with Confucianism.
That's right. So if you sort of synthesize this whole early era, these civilizations together created the basic operating system for organized human life. They introduced writing, formal government, organized religion, sophisticated building. They took us from small, scattered groups reacting to nature to large societies starting to shape it.
Okay, that sets us up perfectly for the next phase. The classical age, maybe 500 BCE to 500 CE. This wasn't just about building bigger. It was about thinking deeper. Yeah. Ideas. And you can't talk ideas without starting in Greece. No, you really can't. Greece is just fundamental for analytical thought. They gave us the seeds of democracy, limited, yes, but still a huge shift from kings and then the philosophical giants. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle.
Right. These thinkers didn't just record events. They gave us the tools to analyze reality, ethics, logic. That became the bedrock of, well, Western thought for centuries.
And if Greece gave us the theory, Rome gave us the mechanism, the application. Rome's big thing, the sources suggest, wasn't just the legions, but the framework. Law, engineering, the republic system.
They were master system builders, managing that huge empire for so long. Incredible. Roads, aqueducts, law that influenced legal systems everywhere. But this classical age impact wasn't just Greco-Roman. We absolutely have to include Persia and India.
Okay, what were their key roles?
Persia created these vast, stable empires with efficient administration. Think huge territories under unified rule. Meanwhile, India was making major leaps in mathematics, the concept of zero, for instance, plus philosophy, and creating epic literature like the Mahabharata.
So law, philosophy, empires, math. But thinking about that core theme of history and civilization, what was the big recording mechanism that defined this era? What really spread and stuff?
Well, it was the recording and spread of faith. This era was fundamentally shaped by huge religious transformations. You see the rise and spread of Buddhism out of India and, crucially, the growth of Christianity across the Roman Empire.
And these weren't just personal beliefs.
Not at all. They became complex, organized systems, written doctrines, established hierarchies. They influenced law, culture, social bonds across continents. Billions of people eventually shaped by these ideas. A totally new kind of social operating system, really.
That influence is key, leading us into the medieval period, say 500 to 1500 CE. Now, in the West, after Rome falls, we often hear this term, the Dark Ages.
Yeah, and that label is really, really misleading if you look globally, which your sources make clear. Sure, Western Europe decentralized, you had feudalism, castles, the church as the main organizing power. But elsewhere, intellectual life was absolutely vibrant. We have to talk about the Islamic Golden Age.
Okay, tell us about that. Roughly 8th to 13th century is what made it golden.
They were brilliant synthesizers and innovators. Instead of letting classical Greek and Roman knowledge just fade away, scholars in the Islamic world actively preserved it, translated it, and hugely expanded on it. Massive advances in science, optics, medicine. They basically invented algebra.
Wow. And where was this happening?
Centered in incredible cities of learning. The libraries of Baghdad, Cordoba in Spain, Cairo. These were bustling hubs drawing scholars from all over.
So history, the recorded knowledge was literally saved and put to work in these cities.
Yeah.
The center of intellectual gravity just shifted.
Precisely. And progress wasn't just there. Look at Asia. China's Song Dynasty was arguably the most technologically advanced place on Earth then. Printing, gunpowder for early firearms, amazing navigation tech.
Way ahead in many ways.
Definitely. And down in West Africa, you had the Mali Empire thriving, with Timbuktu becoming this incredibly wealthy center for trade and also for Islamic scholarship. So knowledge and progress were genuinely global, just maybe not centered where we sometimes assume.
Okay, now the world starts to connect much more rapidly. We hit the Renaissance and the early modern era, maybe 1500 to 1800. The sources paint this as an age of amazing connection, but also deep contradiction.
That's a good way to put it. The connection kicks off with the European Renaissance, this explosion of interest in classical art, science, human potential. That intellectual energy, plus better ships and navigation tools, fuels the age of exploration.
Right. Columbus, Vasco da Gama, Magellan, the names we know, opening up sea routes between continents that hadn't been directly linked before. What was the immediate impact of just knowing the world was bigger and connected?
Well, the world effectively shrank. Suddenly, all major continents are part of a potential network. Trade, ideas, diseases, everything starts moving globally. And crucially, the sources stress the printing press here.
Ah, right. Mass communication arrives.
Exactly. New maps, new scientific findings, radical political ideas that could spread like wildfire compared to before. This massively accelerated the scientific revolution, challenging old beliefs based on new shared observations. The speed of recording history just jumped exponentially.
And here comes that contradiction you mentioned. This era brings enlightenment, new knowledge, but also terrible suffering.
It absolutely did. Alongside this explosion of knowledge and awareness, you get the brutal expansion of European colonialism and the horrifying institutionalization of the transatlantic slave trade. It's this duality we have to grasp. Incredible leaps in human understanding and art, simultaneous with organized large-scale exploitation and violence. This period didn't just link the world, it redrew the global power map in ways that, frankly, still shape our world today. That difficult reshaping sets us up for the final act, really. The age of acceleration, the modern era, 1800 to now. The 19th century kicks off with the Industrial Revolution. What was the really core shift there, beyond just factories? I think the sources point to the energy shift as fundamental. For almost all of history, civilization ran on organic energy muscles, wood, wind, water, limited stuff. The Industrial Revolution cracked the code for fossil fuels, coal, then oil.
Unlocking vast, non-organic power.
Almost limitless, it seemed. And that let production scale up insanely. Railways crossed continents, factories turned out goods, cities swelled as people moved for work. The whole pace of life fundamentally changed, got faster, much faster.
And that faster pace seemed to hit some hard limits in the 20th century. We saw destructive nationalism surge, leading to 2 devastating world wars, then the decades-long tension of the Cold War. It seems hard to square that level of self-destruction with ongoing progress.
It's an incredible paradox, isn't it? In the same century that humanity developed weapons capable of ending civilization, we also mastered electricity, took flight, split the atom, went to space, and invented the computer.
Yeah.
The sources show history isn't some smooth upward curve. It's this constant, often violent struggle between our capacity for incredible innovation and our worst political instincts. And that brings us right up to today, the 21st century. The timeline ends with our current reality. Extreme globalization, digital tech making information instant, and these huge shared problems like the environmental crisis. So, stepping back from this whole whirlwind tour, stone tools to satellites, what's the big takeaway for you listening right now? What does this massive review tell us?
For me, it's the sheer creativity and resilience. We didn't just cope. We kept building, adapting, finding new ways every time the environment or technology or society changed. And history, the act of recording, it feels like it gave us the notes, the blueprint, to figure out what worked and what failed for the next attempt.
And that's exactly the final point the sources really drive home. History and civilization aren't just dusty records. They're meant to be active guides, practical tools for figuring out the future. They show the patterns.
The lessons we really need right now. Absolutely. I mean, if you boil down this whole 12,000-year story, what separated the civilizations that thrived from those that fell apart? The sources suggest it consistently comes down to 3 things: knowledge, cooperation, and mutual respect. Knowledge, cooperation, respect.
Yeah.
So the provocative thought to leave you with is this. As you look at the massive, complex, interconnected challenges we face right now in the 21st century: climate, inequality, technology, ethics, you name it. How well are we applying those 3 principles today? That's the question history poses to us right now.